And we are live. Good evening, everybody. I want to say, how are you all doing at first of all? And we're going to be on all our social media platform. We're here to talk about bullying, some of the problems associated with bullying, and of course, some of the information that we have about Cristo community development. Our Community Against Bullying, a call to action now. We're going to be talking about that along with our anti bullying petition and the rally that's coming up and some of the other things that we're going to be doing for the community. But as I have promised you all, we're going to have a very special guest this evening. I want to say first hi to Mr. E. Mr. E, how are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. And how are you? And good afternoon to everybody. And we thank you so very much for joining us on this special evening.
Doing just fine, Mr. E, and so glad you can join us again this week. We've been on and we've been talking to our friends and those that listen to us on FYI Radio Show. We both host FYI Radio Show, which comes on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9:30 a.m. We're on Peace 95.3 FM. We're on PCE 1400, WGPL 1350, Facebook Live, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We're all over the map. Also, you can join us on the World Wide Web and see more of what we do on FYI Radio Show. And so today, this evening, everybody, again, hello, all those that are out there listening to us on all these platforms. We have a very, very special guest with us, and he is Dr. DARYL Vance Williams, and he is a very fine young man. I happen to know him, grew up with him. He's my brother, and I'm so glad that DARYL, you're able to join us. I just want to say good evening to you.
Well, good evening to you, Mr. E, and to your audience. It's a pleasure to always be a part of this work that you're doing, and just to contribute to the benefits of our community, our people, for me, our educational system, and just life in general. So thank you for having me.
DARYL, tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'm going to address you as Dr. Williams this evening. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us about your career.
Yeah, so career educator. I've spent probably about almost 45 years in the field of education in a variety of positions. I started off as a classroom teacher and then an assistant principal. I worked at the central office in multiple school systems, primarily with Title I programs, federal education programs. And in 2016, I retired as an assistant superintendent in Prince George's County, Maryland. I also, coming out of retirement, I work online. I do two very distinct jobs. One, I'm the associate director for the Center of Education Equity. We are the Region 1 Equity Assistance Center funded by the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights. And the work that we do entails social justice and equity in school systems in 15 states. And I'm also an associate professor for the University of Phoenix in the College of Doctoral Studies. So I work primarily with doctoral students. I'm a dissertation chair and a faculty member for doctoral work.
Wow. You have a wonderful journey. You know, I can remember when you were very, very young, you were very focused on education. It was actually a gift and it was natural to you. I'm sure it could be hard at times, but I knew that you had that gifting in you and you have accomplished so many things. I want to say congratulations to you and thank you for all that you do and all your accomplishments. You know, you are our role model and you have just done so many great things that we admire. You know, DARYL, we're here on a very serious topic. A few years ago, when I was doing a program for the state, It was a Too Good for Drug program. Kids were from first grade to the sixth grade. And of course, we focused on drug prevention and also, tobacco prevention and things like that. There was so many children that I, had to teach and was in the facility that I taught at. And it was not enough adults. And wherein I was focusing on the program Too Good for Drugs, I began to see this thing called bullying. And it was right underneath my nose. I never really paid a lot of attention to it. But all of a sudden, I began to focus on the behavior of children, children bullying children, adults bullying children, children bullying adults, and adults bullying adults. It was really, really something that kind of caught my attention, so much so I decided to write a book about it, a children's book about it. And not only that, I decided to address this thing called bullying. I felt like it was something that I had to do. And so I started out, getting into the community and finding out, why this exists and what people are doing about it. I found out that bullying is everywhere, and it is a problem that really needs a remedy. Tell us a little bit about what you do, and can you kind of give us a description of bullying in the content of what you do? Because you may do something a little bit different than just focusing on that one matter, but it is, when you talk about harassment, when you talk about racism in schools and things like that, you're kind of talking about bullying. Can you kind of address what you think bullying is and how it fits into what you do?
Well, thank you. You're asking some excellent questions and really creating a forum where people need to pay real concerted attention to the behaviors that are occurring in multiple contexts, organizations, families, communities, and particularly the work that I do in schools. And so we look at bullying in the sense of actions, unwanted actions, either they are verbal, physical,
Yes.
Intimidating actions against individuals. Some of those actions may be perceived, people may think that they are joking when they take certain actions, they make certain statements, but it is really, and we couple bullying along with harassment. And so there are federal laws that really address the issues of harassment and bullying. And so in the context of our work in education, we're looking at behaviors and unwanted intimidating actions against another individual. The work that we are involved in the Center for Education Equity really is around civil rights and individuals' rights. And so when those rights are violated by certain kinds of actions, then that's how we get involved. So we look at bullying in schools based on peer-to-peer actions, adult to children actions, and even adult to adult actions, as you mentioned, because we see it manifest in so many different ways and among so many different groups, whether they are racial groups or whether they are gender-based groups or just cultural groups or whatever. So we see that prevalent in schools.
Absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about the law and your group? I know you go from, district to district, sometimes having lawyers, sometimes looking at cases and problems that come into play. But the law, have they given strict rules and regulations concerning harassment and bullying in schools?
Oh, absolutely. And so again, in the context of our work in education, we look at the Title IX law, federal law, which is centered around anti-bullying and sexual harassment. And sexual harassment isn't just harassment based on one's sex or gender. We also look at separately harassment. So when we work with school districts, we often get referrals through the U.S. Department of Justice or through the Office for Civil Rights at the federal level, because schools and districts that receive federal funds are subject to ensure that their environments, their school environments, are bully and harassment free.
Yes.
And so any entity in education that receives federal dollars, then those federal education laws really do have an impact on how we approach this work and how we provide either support, training, or remedies around these issues and these types of behaviors.
Absolutely. Have you all seen success? I mean, are you all seeing success in programs that schools implement? Are you all seeing the numbers go in a favorable, in a way where people are saying they're doing something about this problem, or is it stuck? What's happening? Is the problem getting better or worse?
Well, we are absolutely seeing some positive impacts. I'm not going to, name a particular school district, but like I said, we work with school districts in 15 states, Northeast U.S. So our states really range geographically are located in the Northeast corridor from Maine on down to Maryland. So rather than naming all 13, we come down to Maryland, over to West Virginia, Kentucky, and then we work with the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And so, we receive, again, referrals from the federal government, the Office of Civil Rights, or the U.S. Department of Justice. We've been working with a particular district, those districts where we get those referrals. We work with them for 3 years. We do a lot of investigation around policies and procedures. What are the policies that districts have to address the issues of bullying and harassment and those kinds of mistreatments? We do on-site visits. We were doing on-sites prior to COVID. But we do a lot of reviews. We talk to the community. We talk to parents. We do focus groups. We do a lot of appears to be investigative, even though we're not attorneys. But we do a lot of fact finding. We spend a considerable amount of time delving into the issues. We talk to students. We talk to board members, superintendents, and then we pull together this information and create training opportunities. One, to help adults recognize the issues of bullying and harassment. We provide training for parents to help support them at home and to help them to deal with some of the mental issues that their children may face and suffer as a result of being bullied. And we also then provide recommendations for change around policies, change around how districts collect data that has to be reported around incidences. And we've been seeing the number of incidences decrease as districts really embrace the training opportunities, as they maybe redirect resources to address some of the issues and really take a community approach with community, family, and schools to address these issues. So in several states, we are seeing those impacts in a positive way. And certainly there are districts and states that we probably need to work a little bit harder with.
Do you think incentives, or I think you mentioned, do you all, are schools penalized for not going according to the regulations of the law?
Well, there is a penalty that can be imposed upon a school or district. Again, schools that receive federal dollars, either Title I funds or special education funds, those are federal dollars. Any supplemental resource that supports the local district's budget that comes from the federal government for education, then those funds can be removed from the district. But the U.S. Department of Education's approach really is more proactive. They don't want to take monies from schools and districts. They employ us as technical assistance providers to go in and work with districts and help create change.
Wow.
And change could be in the form of policy change, it could be in the form of practice, and in the form of building stronger relationships between communities and schools and families and schools. And so it's less punitive to address the issue then, and I think we get more bang for the buck when we do that. You mentioned the term incentives. Incentives can be used really in a way to empower people, to be a part of the solution. So when we don't do it specifically, but there are organizations that we work with that can use incentives to help bring parents to the table, help bridge some of the divide in relationships between the schools and the communities, provide resources for schools in terms of books and materials. And again, we do the training. Our organization does the training at no cost to school districts. So that can be an incentive as well. The district doesn't have to pay for the work that we do.
Wow. I'm excited to hear that, because I not only hear you talk about your organization, but I hear you talking about a call to action now with parents, schools, districts, leaders. And it's goes along with our mission to really pull in everybody to resolve this issue of bullying. I really believe, Daryl, it's going to take everybody that can care about the issue, everybody who cares about it, because I think we all have the answer, but we need to come together to make sure we can resolve and eradicate this problem of bullying, harassment, and racism and things like that. So you really make me excited when you talk about the tools that you all are doing, the things that you all are doing, and not only that, you see a light in the midst of a dark place.
The most important aspect of this work, again, and again, we address work beyond just bullying and harassment. You talk about racism, we talk about sexism, and I coined the term, well, I didn't coin it, I just used it, genderism and religion, and even we address the issues around national origin and language, English language learners. And so it really does take a partnership with multiple entities to really have an impact on the work in a positive way. We embrace those partnerships, we encourage, we seek out partners, whether they are public, whether they're private, whatever those resources that can come into the environment of a school and a district and support it. Because teachers and principals and school leaders, they have a big enough job just dealing with the educational aspect of their environment of learning and things like that. And so, we have to give them support and resources from multiple places: mental health, social services, religious organizations, community-based organizations, politicians, business community. We have to pull all of these resources together because schools are schools are reflections of the community.
Yes.
There need to be community resources in a school to help build the success of schools.
Absolutely. Mr. E, do you have any questions? I want to first say, Pamela is watching. Pam, if you have any questions for us or Dr. Williams, please let us know. Anybody out there on any of our platforms, if you want to ask Dr. Williams a question, feel free to just type it in our feed. Mr. E, you have any questions for Dr. Williams?
I want to say good afternoon, Dr. Williams, and thank you so much for joining us, man. I really appreciate you coming on board and giving us great information and educating us on bullying. What is the gender? What is the culture, the race of the percentage of bullying around the world? What is the most cases in what community and in what culture?
Well, all of them.
Wow.
It's not exclusive to any one. It's not more prevalent than in one to another. My experiences, not only in the center, but in my experiences in education, you see bullying in the classroom. You see peer-to-peer. You see black on black. You see white on white. You see cross-race, cross-gender. You see LGBTQ plus students being harassed. You see the harassment from the adults to the students and upward. Students harassing the adults.
Yes.
So it's those kinds of behaviors are inappropriate. They also are dangerous to the entire culture of the school. Yes. And so, statistically, sometimes it depends on the composition of a school district. If you've got a district that is primarily minority, and I'm not suggesting that primary minority districts have more harassing and bullying incidences, but you might see the data that reflects the number of incidences based on the percentage of portion of racial, ethnic, gender groups. But the main thing is you're going to see it in rural districts. You're going to see that kind of misbehavior in suburban and urban districts. You're going to find them among racial peers, gender peers, religious peers. We're finding cyberbullying to be a huge issue.
Yes.
Where the harassment and the bullying is taking place online through social media, through text messages, and so it's a huge problem that really permeates across multiple groups.
Absolutely. Can you tell us about lawsuits and the schools? Are you all seeing more lawsuits? Who's suing who? Are families suing school systems and schools? Are teachers suing families? Tell us what that looks like.
I would say that kind of litigation is occurring more at a federal level, because individuals who pursue legal actions, again, if we're talking about in schools, there's a sense that there's a violation of federal law, and so the actions and the remedies will probably filter to that level first and then move down. And so I would say that in my experience, any lawsuits that have filtered to the federal level, the federal government, Federal Department of Education, Office for Civil Rights, those issues are looked to be resolved as quickly and appropriately at the local level. And so my organizations such as the Center for Education Equity, and again, there are 4 centers across the US.
Wow.
We tend to be called in to help resolve those issues before it has to be resolved in a court situation. But that's not to say that some of those situations are so drastic or so important that they may not even come to us. So I couldn't give you figures in terms of the number of cases that go to litigation, but I can say that there are cases that reach that level, but then they are filtered to us as technical assistance centers, equity centers, to help resolve, because the issues aren't really just the bullying.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the harassment. It's the inactions
Wow.
of schools and districts to address these problems, to have the right tools, the right policies and procedures in place to either minimize those
Yes.
or to mitigate them. And so, and when they're not responsive, when districts are not responsive to the needs of students, the calls from communities and parents and teachers as well, then those are the issues that get elevated to a legal level.
Absolutely.
In your studies, doctor, as you in your experienced world, do you ever think that there will be an end or come to an end of bullying around the world?
Mm.
Mm.
That's a very powerful question. It's a very, I don't want to sound, pessimistic,
Mm-hmm.
but we live in an environment where socially, politically across this nation and across the world, we see the kinds of harassment, the kinds of mistreatments of people. We see it, and we feel that there's not enough being done at the macro level
Wow.
to give people hope. Macro meaning the global level, because you see it in other countries, and you see it in our social systems, our political systems. We see, it impacts our economic system. So people are bullied based on their living circumstances, their living conditions.
Yes.
They're bullied based on, again, their social interactions, just life circumstances. And so when we see a change politically, socially, a more just community and world, then perhaps we'll get closer to seeing the eradication or the minimizing of such incidences. But until we change the circumstances that we see ourselves today, politically, especially because that can be at the root of a lot of the issues that we're facing. We're seeing more and more issues of harassment and bullying, and people feeling more empowered to
Absolutely
demonstrate those kinds of behaviors. So.
I want to say good evening to Miss Roberta Carter. She's on. Pamela Steyer, she's on with us. If you all, say hello, put a little note up here, we will definitely shout you out.
And is Roberta Carter somebody I know?
You know Roberta Carter.
Roberta Carter.
Roberta.
Hi.
Daryl, tell us why you do what you do and how you, why do you want to see things resolved? Tell us, how did you get into this?
Well, it kind of goes back to your first statements about me, your brother, and my desire in education. I think it really started with the grounding of family. We grew we grew up in a close family. The 7 of us as siblings, and our mother, her spiritual woman.
Yes,
I think it was what was implanted in us to serve. And so for me, it's all about service. It's about community. It's about what's my contribution to this world, this place while I'm here on earth. And I have to know that I'm at least making an attempt to make a contribution to a better world. So that drives me to do this work. It drives me to stay in the field of education, because education really is the gateway to a better way of life. It really is. But unfortunately, our educational system globally has not allowed for opportunities of equity for particular groups of children and families. So I stay on this mission, even as a person who retired some years ago. I stay on this mission because the problem is so great,
Mm-hmm.
and the problem has to be dealt with. And then I have to feel that whatever I have attempted to do, I can pass that on to someone else to carry it. So it's for me, it's like a football game. It's never been my goal to win the game. It's just been my goal to carry the ball to a certain point on the field and then hand it off to somebody else to carry the ball.
Wow.
Goal line.
Oh, I love it.
I'm too old to get carried there. I got to give it to somebody.
Pass it to somebody else.
I got to give it to somebody who's strong and interested and desirous of carrying it further. I think Mr. E wanted to kind of follow up too.
Okay. Mr. E, you have.
I want to say good afternoon to our listening audience. Thank you so much for joining us on our Community Against Bullying with our special guest, Dr. Daryl Van Williams. Don't forget, you can go to the applicationchange.org now, and you can sign the petition.
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do is go to bullying, our Community Against Bullying, a call to action now. And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
You can sign the petition. We have about 108 people that's already signed, and we're trying to reach a great old number of 200 people that will sign the petition. So you can take the time out right now to go to change.org and go to take the steps, and guess what? You can help us to combat. You can help us to tell everybody about our community and about bullying. And don't forget to save the date. My God, don't forget to save the date. That October the 15th, save this date, our anti-bullying rally. We want Lottie, Dottie, and everybody, all the children, to be familiar of what bullying is all about. Our host is Miss Yolanda, the Lady Hinton. I'm Ed Everett, the co-host. Our Community Against Bullying with Dr. Van Williams is our host on today. And we want to say another good afternoon to you, Dr. Williams.
You know, I want to ask the question, Daryl, about the pandemic. We see, you know, crime was at a certain point before the pandemic. During the pandemic, some numbers went down. Can you tell us if the problems that you all have, you know, as you all go from district to district, if they kind of went down along with, you know, going through 3 years through this pandemic, and did you all of a sudden see a rise in problems? Are you all more busy in your organization? Tell us what things are going on as far as how the pandemic has affected everything.
Yeah, I would say that the work in the equity centers definitely had to shift.
Wow.
And I wouldn't say that the issues became, you know, minimized. We are still seeing the types of concerns in schools and districts around racial equity and gender equity and religious freedoms. We're seeing some of that on the rise. We've seen more from segments of various political social groups that have really been empowered and emboldened to be a little more vocal negatively around situations. We've seen more misinformation about things such as critical race theory that our school systems across the country do not teach, but there's been a movement to sort of politicize the work around equity for everyone, to make it appear as if, you know, we are creating something that is anti-white. We are also, you know, I think, again, we've had to pay more attention to the issues of cyberbullying, because when schools physically closed and students were online for learning, we began in some places to see more the negative interactions online and through social media. So we've had to sort of shift the approach of working in person to deal with those kinds of issues to now looking at these things remotely. So there have been, ebbs and flows around, some areas may have risen in terms of the attention and awareness, in some areas because we were not on an in-person environment, you didn't see the data rise, as much. You may have seen
Wow.
decrease, but that didn't stop the kinds of concerns that parents would share, that teachers and students and children would share, of the interactions that they had encountered around bullying and harassment. And so it just made us have to shift gears in terms of how we approach these issues.
Yes.
What advice would you give a young man, young woman, an adult, or child when they're being bullied? What advice would you say to them, and where should they go for help?
Well, any young person, and I'll speak to students particularly. They should always talk to their parents.
Yes.
They should always let their parents know about someone saying, or someone inappropriately touching, someone making inappropriate inferences, someone harassing them, and so you have to tell your parents. You have to tell the adults in the school. You've got to not feel that you've got to solve these problems on your own, because
Yes.
too often when our young people don't discuss these problems, then the impacts on their mental health really becomes more profound. They're holding things in. They may be afraid to
Right.
to go to school or to go to class, or they might be intimidated by certain people, and it's not, students shouldn't feel that they are tattling or things like that. You're really trying to ensure your safety and your rights to the education that you are entitled to. And so you've got to talk to the adults. And then you have to have your parents be strong advocates for you. You got to insist upon that. Parents they got to take seriously when their children come home and say, I've been harassed, I've been mistreated.
Yes.
Brush it under the rug. You've got to address it immediately, and you've got to seek remedies and appeals when you don't feel you've reached a remedy for that kind of behavior. So if you report it to the principal and you don't feel you've got satisfaction, you report it to the superintendent. You report it to other entities until you get some sense of satisfaction, some remedy to the situation.
Yes.
Dr. Williams, gangs are at a high, rapid rate now, and everywhere folks turn, young folks are being drawn into a gang, and they got a slogan that they'll jump you in and the gang, and then they'll jump you out. A lot of young men love the handshake, that looks so cool and make them be a part of an in crowd, but they're threatening their families. They're threatening their mama. They're threatening to do bodily harm. And they got a slogan that says, snitches get stitches, and when they say that to a young man, that they're going to hurt their mommy, they're going to hurt their daddy, the child itself seems to shut down. Don't want to go to school, pretending that they're sick, because they don't want to see nobody do any bodily harm to their family. What do we do then? What do we say to our children, especially when mommy and daddy said, oh, they just being children, they just kids, and it's nothing to all of that? What do we say to our children? The serious side.
Yeah, we've got to really understand and be proactive around the sense of safety. Safety in school, safety in the home, safety in the community has to be one of the number one topics that families and communities really have to deal with. And so, we're looking at a couple of things. You look at peer pressure that certain young people are being forced into certain kinds of affiliations. You look at fear and safety. So there's a fear that if I don't engage, if I don't get involved, then something could happen to me, my family, my friends. And so it really does take that grasping of the community and the schools to work together to, one, recognize when these kinds of actions are occurring. The schools and communities have to actively listen to young people and not treat young people as if, they have no voice.
Yes.
That their voice doesn't matter. Their concerns are minimal. We've got to take serious the concerns, and then we've got to create ways to give assurances to young people that we're really doing something about it.
Yes, absolutely. There are leaders, the police force. They're at their wits' end with the violence that's going on in our cities. If you would sit down with our leaders today, what are some of the things you would say to them?
Well, again, with our community leaders, with our police forces, our justice systems, our social services, our mental health, and I've worked with, all of these entities in various factions of my career. So it's a matter of coming together and creating a community voice.
Wow.
And a community voice is not a voice where one organization or one entity is dominating, whatever the discourse is going to be. We've got to have a unified message, a unified approach, bring resources from various entities within the community together to really address the issues. And so the message that I have isn't a new message. It's unity as one. It's strength in numbers. It's, are we really serious about crime? Are we serious about, family living situations, homelessness? Are we serious about economic development? Are we serious about income inequalities? Are we serious about the education gap? Are we serious about underemployment? Are we serious about dealing with the invisible barriers that really create pockets of low income, wealth gaps? Are we really serious about these things? And so we've got to be serious enough that we don't wear our titles on our sleeves, that we are so important in our work, and that our work is more important than the needs of our community.
Yes.
I often say, people have asked me, well, have you ever considered politics? And, if I ever did, it would definitely be for a term limit, because, it's not about me doing, being in a position forever. It's about, as I said before, my role is to come in, to take the mantle, carry it as far as I'm capable of carrying it, and then over to someone to carry it even further.
Wow.
So as long as we keep handing off the ball in an upward progressive trajectory, then I think we'll see progress made. But if we spend too much time focused on my organization or my title, or I'm the chief of something, I'm not trying to call people out.
Yes.
But if that's our focus, then we're never going to address the issues, and we're never going to solve the problems.
Absolutely.
You said so much about different areas, homelessness and crime on the streets. Do you think it's just a money game for different cities or different states to keep people bound, to keep people broke, to keep people at odds in or fighting with one another? Do you think it's just a cash in the bank, another grant writer, another this, so that city or that town can make some cheese?
Well, I will say, and I'm going to step out of my role with my organization, and I'm going to speak for Daryl.
Okay.
Because I don't want what I say to appear as if I'm representing anyone who may differ from how I think and feel.
Yes.
So I believe that the wealth disparities, the wealth gaps in this country continue to feed into the problems that we have socially, and that the wealth gap continues to create these divides, whether they are divides based on race, whether they're divides based on gender, even if they're divides based on religion and status, immigration status. So as long as we continue to live in a society where the haves versus the have-nots seems to be the norm, and the have-nots are always going to lose out.
Yes.
They don't have the resources, and even if I think if we attempted to collectively pull those resources together, those that have more still have more power. So we're talking about wealth and power. And so just me speaking, I think we're going to always have this divided nation because we can't seem to get past the gaps that really are part of what this nation is about. Wealth gaps, race gaps, gender gaps. There's always a gap.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
Absolutely. Those that have and those that don't.
Yeah.
The haves and the have-nots.
Always about the have. So economically, yeah. Politically, yeah. Politically, it's still about the haves and the have-nots. Socially, it's about the haves and the have-nots. Economically, it's about the haves and the have-nots. Even religiously, and and some folk might take this the wrong way, but again, I look at it from this perspective. When I know we grew up in a church where we might have had 10 members tops, and you look at a church that might have 40,000.
Yes.
And there's still that gap in terms of the value of religion. So, we got to get past these gaps.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yes. So we want to say thank you so much, Daryl, Dr. Williams, for being on. You've taught us so much. And we want to keep this dialogue going. And we would love for you to participate in some way with what we're doing, even if we have to Zoom you in to speak to our audience, to just give that encouraging word or information that the community needs to have. I want to say good evening to Mark Howard. James Tony is on with us as well. Thank you all for joining us. And again, Dr. Williams, thank you for being a part of what we're doing. And we definitely take all the information that you've given us, and we're gonna internalize it and do better, and make sure our circle and those that are working with us understand the message. Make sure we all understand the message. So thank you so much. Pamela says thank you for the information that was given. This Pam said that, Daryl, thank you so much for the information. And, so many people will be watching on this platform and others. And we just want to say have a wonderful evening. And
before you go, can I just sort of shout out? I want the people in the audience to know that I'm a born and bred Portsmouthian. Cavalier Manor is where we grew up, and so while I may be here in Georgia, because I'm based in Atlanta, outside of Atlanta, I still have a love for what's going on in Virginia. And so anytime you need me to be a part of the work that you're doing, Miss Lady and Mr. E in the DMV, and particularly in Tidewater, I'm more than happy to make my contribution to the place that was home for me and help groom me and plant the seeds for me. So.
Daryl, any last words? Anything you want to give us before you go?
We've got to be engaged. We can't take this work and just enjoy these speaking moments, these guest moments. We've got to get our hands in the work. We've got to promote equity. We've got to promote fairness. We've got to look at ways to reduce the wealth, the social gaps. And we've got to love our children. at each other. We have to, because our children are impacted not just educationally, but they're impacted mentally and socially. And if we don't hold on to them, then they're going to be forced into situations and environments where they may not, it may produce dangerous outcomes. So
Absolutely.
we've got to love them. We've got to care for them. We've got to take care of them. And we've got to not be afraid of the fight.
Yes. Mr. E, you have any last words or any information for our audience?
I want to let our audience know what a great, great moment that we have with Dr. Daryl Williams that brought us great, great, great education and allowed us to know the statistics and the things that are around us and how that we'll be better off if we just pull together and come together as one. And let us bridge the gap. You let us bridge the gap, that we are no better than any other, that we are our brother's keepers. And just before we go, I just want to let our listening audience know to keep the date. Oh, yeah, keep the date. October the 15th, save the date for our anti-bullying rally. That's going to be at New Galilee in the city of Chesapeake, Virginia. And don't forget to go online. That's right. Go to change.org or Edward Everett's page or Miss Yolanda, the Lady Hinton Facebook page, and see the petition. The petition is right there for you. All you have to do is 2 steps. And just sign the petition and tell Lottie Dottie and everybody that you signed the petition, because we want to get rid of this bullying. We want our seniors to be able to come outside and enjoy their front yard without putting bars on their houses, and to be able to play in their grass and make flowers, because flowers and gardening is therapy for them. We want to see our seniors to be able to come and be able to stand in their own yards without being intimidated by gang violence, without being intimidated by disrespectful of young people and young men and young women. We want to have our bus drivers that's picking up our children that has autistic, and not to treat them like they're just rag dolls or papers. We want our parents to come together and listen to your child as they speak out. Don't just sit at home. Be active in your PTA meetings. Be active in your children's school. Go out to your children's school and read books to the children. It doesn't cost you anything to take a little time out your busy schedule and just go and make sure your son or somebody else's child is safe. That's it, Ms. Hinton. I want to save the date. I want to
Absolutely. Our date, October the 15th, our Community Against Bullying, a call to action now. We're going to have some speakers. We're going to have activities for children. We're going to have pizza and a dialogue. We're going to have wild and out bullying. Yeah. We're going to have a banner competition. And we're going to also be able to give you information on what you can do to be a part of some of the programs that we have, Young Men and Women Achieving Success program. We also want you to remember to go and sign the petition. You can go to my personal page, Yolanda Hinton, or Edward Everett's personal page. You can go to change.org. Just Google Our Community Against Bullying and you'll get the petition. Also, registration is already online. Go to Facebook and you will find registration. Let us know if you're coming, if you're bringing youth groups, your children, so we can have numbers, because with Pizza and the Dialogue, we want to know how many children are coming. We don't want to have too little. We don't want to have too much. But we're going to have a wonderful time. And we're going to talk to one another. We have Senator Lionel Spruill that's going to be there with us. Some of the other leaders. We're going to have some folk from our police, is it Norfolk Police Department, who's bringing ice cream truck for kids. And we're just going to have a little entertainment and just a lot of fun and a lot of conversation. So you all please be a part of what we're doing. Pass the word, share this video. October the 15th, save the date, 11 p.m. in Chesapeake, Virginia. All that information is online. We will continue to remind you of it. Again, Daryl, thank you for being on with us. You are a blessing. You always have been a blessing to us, our family. We love you so much, and we look to work with you and continue to, connect with what you're doing and just connect in general. We want you to have a wonderful evening. Shout out to Pat. Hey, Pat, boy. Shout out to my baby girl, Pat. And so, Daryl, you have a wonderful evening, okay?
Just before we let Daryl go, Miss Hinton, we want to let Daryl know that anytime that you need a platform,
Yes.
FYI is open for you. I want to let you know that FYI is on several platforms. We're on WPCE 1400, WGPL 1350, 95.3 FM, and soon to be 88.9 FM. Not only that, we're on the World Wide Web. That means that we on every social platform and every internet there is, and we are live. We are live coming to you. There's no podcast. We're none of that. We just bringing you straight live instrumental and bring you great information that would help people to rise above mere survival. Anything you got going on, let us know.
It would be a pleasure to continue to work with you. So I look forward to doing so. And as we, the organization here, we again continue to do our work. I'll keep you posted on resources, on any changes that may be coming down the pike from the federal government, even state governments and local. So, I'll be a resource for you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us again. We will see you all on Wednesday with our Wednesday segment on FYI Radio Show. What's under your hat? What's under the hat? We're talking about issues concerning men. And our topic, you are not the father. This is part 2. And we're talking to men that have actually gone through this experience and willing to share. So we'll see you all Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. on all our radio platforms. And you all be blessed. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
God bless.
2 up, 2 down.